Hi, welcome to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be sharing my April reading wrap up. So in the month of April, I read 7 books. So I'm just going to go through each of the books, share what they're all about, give my short little review and my rating of them like I do every month with my wrap ups. So yeah, let's just get into the video. So the first book I read was The Playlist by Morgan Elizabeth. So this book follows Zoe and Xander. Xander is Zoe's best friend's older brother. So Zoe and Xander have just kind of always been in each other's lives. And so at this point, the two of them are both single at the same time. And Zoe is kind of having this like midlife crisis almost, even though she's not in her midlife. But basically she was going through all this old stuff with her best friend, like stuff from their childhood, and she kind of realized that her life is nothing like she imagined it would be when she got older, and so she's kind of freaking out about that, and she kind of just like makes all these life-altering decisions at once. And so now she's kind of trying to figure out what to do next, where her life is going to go now. And so Xander, like I said, he realizes now that they're both single at the same time, and so he makes this plan to win her over. He decides that he's going to take her on this road trip that he told her that he would take her on one day when they were younger. He's gonna like kind of use that time to win her over and help her realize what she wants to do next. And during that time, he uses this list that she created when she was younger. It's like this love story bucket list that's kind of inspired by Taylor Swift songs. He kind of asks her to just play pretend with him for a week and just kind of start to envision her life that way of like being with him and having all the things that she wants. So this book is supposed to be kind of a Taylor Swift inspired rom-com. There were so many Taylor Swift references throughout this book. Like I said, she makes this bucket list that's inspired by Taylor Swift songs. So that was kind of like the big thing that pulled me in with this book. Like that's why I read it. So in this one, I did really love all of the Taylor Swift references. Like that was just really fun to read, and just like seeing all the things he did for her that were directly from Taylor Swift songs. Like as someone who grew up listening to Taylor Swift, that was really fun to read about, like seeing him kind of put all this effort into like completing this whole list of things that she has always wanted to experience. And this book I think was just like a cute, fun time, but that's about it. There really wasn't much to it other than that. I didn't love this book as much as I was hoping to. I did put it on my TBR for April, and I talked about it in my April TBR video, and I was talking about how excited I was for it and how I was just going to be like obsessed with this book because of the fact that it was Taylor Swift inspired. And I wasn't obsessed with it. I didn't love it as much as I thought I would, but I did still like it. Like I still enjoyed it for the most part. I just wish there had been a little bit more to it. And like I said, in this book, they've known each other like their whole lives basically, and so there's kind of already this connection established with the two of them, and I didn't really like that because I would have wanted to see more of their relationship actually developing, I guess. But like I said, it was still a cute book. I still enjoyed most of it, and so I ended up rating this one a 3.75. So the next book that I read was The Summer We Fell by Elizabeth O'Rourke. So this book follows Juliet. She is 17 years old, so she's still in high school, and she is living with her boyfriend's family. She's kind of had a really difficult life growing up. She's had a lot of things happen that basically led to her now living with her boyfriend's family. They just kind of took her in, but her boyfriend is a couple years older than her, so he's already off at college, and so he comes back home after his first year, and he brings along his best friend to come and stay with them for the summer. And so the two of them meet, and right away she kind of gets this feeling that he doesn't really like her, so she kind of decides that she doesn't like him either, and they're just not really friendly towards each other, but they also kind of have this connection between them, and you slowly see that develop a little bit. But obviously it gets really complicated because he is her boyfriend's best friend. And so in this book, it does go back and forth from the past and the present. So you're seeing her as 17 years old, and that's in the past timeline, and then we're seeing the present day, which is happening 10 years later from when they first met. And so it just kind of goes back and forth every other chapter. You're obviously getting the whole story of what happened. You do start off in the present day, and you know something has happened in the past just based on the way these characters are with each other and how they're interacting. And so then you're slowly kind of getting that story, like going back into the past and kind of getting the pieces of everything. So this book really wasn't what I was expecting, but I still really liked it a lot. I definitely expected it to be really angsty because obviously the main character has this connection with her boyfriend's best friend, and so while I expected a lot of angst to come with this story, I didn't really expect so much heartbreak. Like this book was actually really heartbreaking. You see like a lot of these characters and what they've gone through, and you obviously see like Juliet's past and what's happened in her life. So definitely check trigger warnings for this one. I wasn't expecting it to be as heavy as it was. It definitely has like some more heavy and serious topics in there, so just keep that in mind with this book. But yeah, like I said, I ended up really liking this one. I do wish there had been a little bit more with the connection between the two main characters. I feel like it was kind of more like telling rather than showing that connection, and I did find the connection between them to be believable, but I just wish there had been a little bit more there. I also think that the ending was a little bit rushed. But other than that, I did still really enjoy this book. I was definitely really invested in it. But this book, I ended up rating it a 4.25. So the next 3 books that I read were all football romances, and I did do a video for them where I read 3 Kindle Unlimited football romances, and so in that video I shared what they're all about and I went more in depth on my reviews of them, so I'm not going to go like too in depth with them. But the first book was Coach by Devney Perry. This book follows Millie and Ford. The 2 of them are best friends in college, and then at one point they just kind of like cut off contact from each other, and now it's 10 years later and he just got a job as a football coach at the university that they attended. And then when he starts his new job, he finds out that she also works there. She's an assistant athletic director, and so at this point he is actually a single dad, so he moves back to this town with his daughter. Obviously he runs into Millie again, and when they were in college, like I said, they were best friends and there was kind of something between them, but it just never really developed into more, and now he's interested in seeing where their relationship can go. I ended up rating this one a 4.25. So the next book that I read was First Down by Grace Riley. This one is obviously another football romance. It follows James and Bex. The 2 of them are college students. James is like this star football player, and then Bex is one of his classmates. The 2 of them have this class together, and he's kind of worried about his grade in that class. He's worried about failing it, so he asks her to tutor him, and she says no, she's not interested in helping him at all. And he's kind of just really persistent. He keeps asking her and kind of trying to make different deals with her, and eventually she comes to him with a deal, and she asks him to fake date her because her ex-boyfriend, he's also on the football team, he just keeps bothering her. He wants to get back together, but she's not interested in being with him anymore, so she asks James to be her fake boyfriend, and in exchange she'll tutor him. This one I ended up rating it a 3.75. The next book I read was Against the Clock by Brittany Kelly. This one again is another football romance, and again I talked about it more in that video that I mentioned earlier. So this book follows Daniel and Kelsey, and so Kelsey is a reporter, Daniel is a professional football player. They meet at a football game. She's on the sidelines and then he collides into her during the game, so that's their initial meeting, and it's basically love at first sight for him. He just wants to get to know her more and he wants to date her, and so it just kind of goes from there. He ends up eventually asking her out, and so this book was just very insta-lovey, and I did not like that about this one, and so I ended up rating it a 2.75. So the next book that I read was King of Wrath by Anna Huang. I did a whole book review video for this book where I went obviously more in depth with it, and it is spoiler free. I mean, I talked about my thoughts on the book and I talked about my thoughts on things that happen in it, but I didn't like go in depth onto what actually happens in the book, so that's up on my channel. But King of Wrath is the first book in Anna Huang's Kings of Sin series. This book follows Vivian and Dante. Dante is this billionaire CEO, and he gets blackmailed into an arranged marriage with Vivian, and so now the 2 of them are engaged, but obviously he is trying to get out of it. But in that time, of course, the 2 of them start to fall for each other. So I absolutely loved this book. I just thought it was so good. I enjoyed everything about it. I loved this couple, and so I ended up rating this one 5 stars. The next book I read was Happy Place by Emily Henry, and so again with this book I did do a more in-depth review that's up on my channel. But Happy Place follows Harriet and Wynn. The 2 of them have just always been this perfect couple. They've been together for years now. They met when they were in college, and they are also part of this friend group. It's a friend group of 6 people, but Harriet and Wynn recently broke up and they haven't told their friends yet, and every year the 6 of them go on this vacation to this cottage in Maine. So they show up on the trip and they end up finding out that the cottage is being sold, so this is going to be the last week that they spend there. And so Harriet and Wynn decide that they don't want to let anyone down or just like ruin the mood of the vacation at all by telling their friends that they're not together anymore. So the 2 of them decide to pretend that they're still together for that week. So this book, I could go on and on about how much I loved it. Like I can't stop thinking about this book since I read it. Like it's just been on my mind. I loved it so much. This book was just amazing to me. It was perfect. I loved it so much, so this one was obviously another 5-star read. So those are all the books that I completed in the month of April. I did start reading King of Pride by Anna Huang, which is book 2 in the Kings of Sin series. I didn't finish it by the end of the month though, so I'm obviously not going to talk about it yet, but I did want to mention it since I started it in April and I was obviously reading it at the end of the month. But yeah, that was my April wrap up. Let me know any of your thoughts on any of these books, and if you liked this and you're new to my channel, I would love it if you would stick around and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.